I'm going to introduce our first Jasper member. Her name is Stephanie Jimenez. She's a, have my papers here, cheat sheet. She's a Queens-based writer and former Fulbright recipient who currently works in publishing. She runs the Young to Publishing Writers Committee and is co-founder of the Jasper Collective. She has just finished writing her first book-length manuscript, and you can follow her at Estefes, which is Estefsays on Twitter, and let her know how much you love her. And here's Stephanie Jimenez.
Hi, everyone. So as you may know, the theme for tonight is Visitations, and my piece is titled The Campus Visit. On the bulletin board in the hallway were sign-up sheets for biology tutors. Two girls with thick black braids that reached down to their waist passed with their arms linked. A pashmina scarf was abandoned in the common area, crumpled into itself like a cloth table napkin. Less than an hour on campus, and Pamela realized what they had done. They had put her with the Indians. Pamela was angry. She was angry that she had checked off the Asian American box. It had been optional, after all, and still she had ticked it. "Haven't you heard of affirmative action?" Melody had said. Melody was tall with mousy brown hair, like all the other white girls at Pamela's suburban high school. Melody's secret to staying beautiful and thin was running just 1 mile a day in the excruciating Dallas heat. "You better check that box," Melody had said, as she looked over Pamela's application. And now here Pamela was, a prospective college student, a 3.5-hour flight away from home, angry at Melody, who Pamela had never actually seen sweat, or for that matter, run. To make matters worse, Pamela's campus host was an idiot. Her name was Joy, and she wore flip-flops everywhere, and she probably didn't even realize that Massimo was a brand they only sold at Target. Otherwise, why would she leave her clothes all over the chair where Pamela could clearly read the labels? "Have you been to In-N-Out? I'm not even from California, but In-N-Out seriously makes the best burgers." Pamela hated Joy, and hated the poster Joy hung over her bed frame. It was a photograph of a pair of dolphins, shades of blubbering blue. Joy wasn't what Pamela thought of when she thought of college girls. Joy seemed straight edge and girly. She likely listened to the Spice Girls, non-ironically. "I've heard of it," Pamela said, "but no, I've never eaten In-N-Out." "Oh my God," Joy said, revealing her donkey-like overbite. "Their burgers are so good. You're gonna effing love it." And effing came out like a tire losing air. In the car, Pamela fought with the window. "You have to roll it down," Joy said. "It's not an old car, just a no-frills one." She pulled out onto the boulevard, craned her neck to look out. She'd been driving with her left signal on for an entire block before she reached the turn. "Anyway," Joy continued, "I don't know if you knew this, but SCU has a great ballroom dancing team. There's a meet tonight. We can do that later if you want." Pamela flinched. Ballroom dancing? She couldn't stop herself. "You know why I'm your prospect, right?" Pamela asked, recalling that morning in the Aquamarine Auditorium. There were hundreds of visiting students, all of them with labels slapped across their shirts. At the sign-in table were sets of blue Sharpies. Pamela could tell who she would and would not want to be friends with just by what she saw on the shirts. Pamela wrote Pam in uppercase letters like it were an acronym. Not basic enough to go by her first name, but not so self-serious to write out her last name either, as if having a last name and making people know it was some sort of accomplishment. The only exception was when she saw Nordstrom sitting in the row behind her, and she made a note in her phone to remember to look that girl up. At the end of the brief orientation speech, all of the visiting students were picked up by their campus hosts, and Pamela saw Nordstrom go off with a surfery blonde who had a certain look to her, like she would die early in life of emphysema or a motorcycle crash. Pamela looked on longingly. Everyone else got matched up like they should, based on interest, Pamela said to Joy as they pulled into the In-N-Out drive-thru. You're only my host because we're both Indian. I don't ballroom dance. And dance came out like something dropped from the top of the stairs. They pulled up to order. Joy worked her arm in multiple clockwise circles before the window finally came down. What kind of burger do you want? Joy asked, but her face was so far out the window, Pamela only guessed what she said. Fries? Pamela asked. Just fries. Joy said something into the speaker. All around the parking lot, there were squares of granite tables, awash in unfiltered sun. Do we have to eat here? Pamela asked as Joy passed her the food. It's either that or my dorm room. They got out of the car and sat at the only empty table, next to a garbage can. I know you asked for fries, Joy said, but I got you a burger too, just in case. I hope you're not vegetarian. I'm not, Pamela said. I guess it's not typical for Indians, but my family loves meat. Oh, Joy said, mine too, but that is typical for Puerto Ricans. We eat pork for, dessert. Pamela looked up. Her host was still wearing her t-shirt label. Joy hadn't written her last name. You butthead, Melody would have said. She's not Indian. Then again, Joy said, her finger to her lip, a lot of people eat meat, so that can't be why we're matched either. I'm sorry, Pamela said. You look Indian. Yeah, Joy said. Everyone thinks that. Pamela looked around the parking lot. She'd never been to Southern California before, and she'd expected beach, but what she saw was landlocked, a wide expanse of boulevard. She dunked her last French fry in ketchup and remembered Melody's explicit instruction to bring her a weed lollipop. You don't smoke weed, do you? Pamela asked. Joy laughed. No, she said. Do you? Not really, Pamela said. It's for a friend. Weed isn't legal in Dallas. She licked the tips of her fingers, brought it down to the wrapper where small piles of salt had gathered. Hey, can I ask you something? Joy leaned in. What do you have against Indians? Nothing, Pamela said. I don't know. I mean, Joy continued, aside from the fact that they all smell like curry and have arranged marriages. Pamela looked up from her fries. What? Yeah, Joy said. I mean, you can be honest. It's not like I'm gonna tell the SCU Asian American Student Association. God, they really need a shorter name. Pamela looked down to rip a cuticle off her finger. Yeah, Pamela said. You're right. My mom had an arranged marriage. She looked up from where she had pulled off her skin. But you're Puerto Rican, she said. So your parents never even got married, did they? Joy ripped into her cheeseburger. Maybe not. And how many of your sisters are pregnant? Pamela asked. I mean, you're probably pregnant right now. Well, that would explain this, Joy said, pointing at her stomach. She took another bite, and through a chewed-up piece of beef patty, she pointed to her cheek and said, but this would explain it too. When Pamela started laughing, and it came out like a tea kettle whistling, Joy had to do everything to prevent herself from spitting onto the granite table. So I guess I'll try it, Pamela said, once she had composed herself from her laughter. She lifted the extra burger towards the sky, and Joy held up her own soggy bun as if the two of them were clinking wine glasses. My first In-N-Out burger. Yes, Joy said, and believe it or not, the second tastes even better than the first. Next time you're out here, you'll see. Pamela smiled. Cheers. When they drove back to campus, Pamela stuck her arm out the window, pressing with her palm flat to the wind like it were something she wanted to hold. For the rest of the night, Joy waited, but Pamela didn't ask again about a place where they could buy a weed lollipop or the reason she was matched with her campus host.